the hedgehog that knew too much. Hey there. Before we begin, take a deep breath. Let your shoulders relax and let your mind wander into the quiet woods of a cold Bavarian night. Tonight's story is about a man, a lonely walk, and a tiny creature that changed everything. Elliot was a quiet man who lived on the edge of a forest in Germany. He was a carpenter, spending most of his days shaping wood into furniture, and his nights walking under the moonlight to clear his thoughts. The forest was his peace. It whispered softly when the world outside shouted too loud. But one cold November night, as he followed his usual path, something felt strange. The forest was too still, no rustling, no hoots, no wind, just a silence that pressed on his ears. Then a small cry broke through the dark, a weak, squeaky sound, almost like a baby's whimper. Elliot knelt down and pushed aside the leaves. There, trembling under the branches, was a tiny hedgehog. One of its legs was bleeding, twisted at an odd angle. It looked helpless, barely breathing.
He gently scooped it into his hands. "Don't worry, little one. I've got you," he whispered. Its tiny black eyes blinked up at him as if it understood.
When Elliot got home, he lined an old shoebox with a soft towel, cleaned the wound, and wrapped its leg with a small bandage. He set a shallow dish of milk beside it and watched the creature curl into a ball, finally at peace. He smiled for the first time in weeks.
Over the next few days, Elliot took care of it like a friend. He talked to it as he worked, telling it about his day, his thoughts, his memories of his late wife. He named it Nox, night, in Latin, because it had come into his life from the darkness.
Every evening, Nox would peek from its box when Elliot returned. It began to recover fast, even following him around the room. The loneliness that used to sit in Elliot's chest started to fade. The house no longer echoed with emptiness. It had a heartbeat again. But after a few weeks, strange things began to happen. Elliot woke up one night to a scratching sound. At first, he thought it was just Nox exploring, but the sound was deeper, heavier. When he switched on the light, the hedgehog froze. Its body looked different, larger. Its quills sharper. Its eyes faintly glowing in the dim light.
"You're growing strong, huh?"
The next morning, he noticed deep scratches along the wooden walls. Outside, in the garden, lay a few dead mice, their small bodies untouched except for a single puncture mark. Days turned into nights, and the creature grew stranger. It stopped coming out during the day. It only moved in the dark, silent and watchful. Sometimes Elliot would wake up to find it sitting near his bed, staring at him with those glinting golden eyes. He told himself he was imagining things. After all, he'd raised it. It trusted him, didn't it? But then came the storm. The sky cracked open with thunder and rain, and the wind screamed through the trees. The lights in Elliot's home flickered and went out. He lit a candle and sat by the window, waiting for the storm to pass. That's when he heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. From inside the hallway. He grabbed a flashlight and shone it down the hall, and the beam caught something. Nox, standing upright, its body bigger than ever, its spines sharp as blades, its eyes glowing like molten gold.
Elliot froze. "Nox," he whispered.
The creature hissed, a low, rumbling sound that didn't belong to something so small. It lunged, the candle fell, the room filled with darkness, glass shattered, and then came a scream, one that echoed through the storm until it was swallowed by the wind. When morning came, the neighbors noticed smoke rising from the cabin and called the police. Officers arrived to find the house silent. Inside, they discovered Elliot's body in his room. There were deep wounds across his chest and arms. like he'd been attacked by something covered in lion blades. But there were no signs of a break-in. The doors were locked from the inside. On the floor beside him, curled up quietly, was a tiny hedgehog with an old bandage still wrapped around one leg. It was breathing slowly, eyes half closed, as if it had never left his side. The police took it away in a small box, thinking it was the man's pet. The report simply said, "No signs of foul play. Possible animal attack." But none of them could explain the deep, even puncture wounds. Later that night, in the evidence room of the local station, a security guard on duty heard faint scratching. He walked over to the box. The lid was open. The hedgehog was gone. He looked around, confused, the room eerily quiet. Then he noticed two small golden eyes staring at him from the shadowed corner, unblinking, waiting. The camera recording that night cut out after exactly 6 seconds, and since then, no one has entered that evidence room alone. They say sometimes when you walk through the Bavarian woods at night, you can hear a faint scratching sound, followed by soft footsteps just behind you, and if you listen closely, you might see two glowing eyes, watching, waiting for kindness to strike again. So, if you ever find a tiny creature lost and trembling in the dark, remember this story. Some things are meant to be saved, and some things are meant to be left in the forest. Good night.